Hey everyone, Rich here, very quickly jumping in before the video actually begins. You might be wondering why there is a keyboard review, something we've not done before here on WhatCulture Gaming, and the simple answer to that is we're looking at potentially pursuing a more hardware-centric platform. So, keyboards and mice, PC parts, video game consoles, controllers, accessories, and the like, and so on and so forth. And basically at the exact time we were talking about this, Roccat got in touch and said, hey, we've got a keyboard, do you want to have a look at it? So I seized the opportunity and I've done a whole review, which you're about to watch right now, to give you guys a proof of concept as to something we could pursue in the future. So let me know in the comments below whether you like this kind of thing, and also what stuff you'd like to see in the future. You can even let me know on Twitter. But I won't keep you any longer. I hope you enjoyed the video. As a PC gamer, I am always on the lookout for new hardware, and as any PC player will tell you, your battle station will never, ever be finished. Enter Roccat with their new Vulcan keyboard line, and more specifically in this case, the Roccat Vulcan TKL Pro. I am a big fan of a TKL or 10 keyless keyboard layout because I don't need a numpad, but as a video editor and a graphic designer, God forbid I lose my arrow keys. The Vulcan TKL Pro is built on a solid aircraft-grade aluminium base with barely any noticeable flex. The underside is hard plastic with easy access to all the screws by the looks of things, and no need to remove any rubber feet to take this thing apart if you needed to. Speaking of rubber feet, you have 3 wide feet at the front of the chassis with 2 on the flippable feet at the back, a pair visible when the angled feet are down and a pair when the feet are up. So at whichever angle you like your keyboard, this thing is not slipping around. Connectivity is via a removable USB Type-C connector, which is slightly offset to the left of the keyboard. Not sure whether that was a conscious design decision, but it's still nice to see USB-C instead of the almost archaic now micro USB that some manufacturers are still sticking to. The cable itself is braided, just shy of 2 meters long, has a nice Velcro cable tie built in when you need to keep things tidy, and the Type A connector features a keyboard icon so you know exactly what you're unplugging when fumbling behind your PC. The keycaps are a low-profile, double-shot smooth plastic, which could lead to an oily, shiny look after constant use, and are slightly contoured so your fingertips are drawn to the center of the keycap. They use a beautifully clean typeface, no gamery fonts here, and the secondary functions of particular keys, though not as bright as their default counterparts, are still mildly translucent, meaning you can still see where your punctuation and print screen controls are in the dark. There are also the usual small notches on the F and J home keys, but also on the W, as this is a gaming keyboard after all. And of course, as you've already seen, there is RGB involved. The lighting is per key, and thanks to the open nature of the chassis, it's extremely bright, even when against a black aluminium base. You can switch between some simple lighting profiles with the FN and arrow keys out of the box, though you do get much more customization options through Roccat's Swarm software. You can recolor individual keys, create entire profiles, and even add certain animations to set keys. So your WASD keys could remain solid while the rest of the board breathes, which is a nice touch. The switches in play on the Vulcan TKL Pro are Roccat's own Titan Switch Optical, a linear switch, so no tactile bump or loud clicks, that have a 1.4mm actuation distance, so they're pretty quick on their feet. Plus, thanks to these being optical switches, which means each switch blocks a beam of light to send a press to the computer, each of these switches has a lifespan of 100 million keystrokes, which is, on average, about double that of a normal mechanical switch. The keycaps are removable, and the Titan Switch Optical does use a usual MX stem, so if you wanted to swap out the keycaps, you are absolutely able to. It does have a standard bottom row if you wanted to do this, which is nice, but because the caps are quite thin, be careful when removing them, as A, they could go flying, and B, you could break them if you give it a bit too much force. Typing and gaming on this keyboard feels fantastic. The switches have a nice, smooth, consistent travel, and the shorter actuation distance means that when gaming, your key presses really do feel almost instantaneous. However, because you have a much more visible gap between the keys, it felt like the key spacing was a little bit wider than what I'm used to, so I was getting my fingers trapped in between the keys, but it didn't take long for me to get used to it. As for the switches in action, this is how they sound. Even with these keycaps being so thin, Roccat took every opportunity to make sure these things didn't wobble, and by God they've succeeded. There's barely any wiggle even on the largest key, the spacebar. And with a firm shake of the keyboard, you can barely hear any keycap rattle, which is nice. Also on the board is a volume wheel with great tactility and a mute button next to it, but no dedicated media controls. They've been relegated to a function layer on the F keys, but for a TKL form factor, this isn't a huge surprise. There are also no discrete indicators for caps lock, scroll lock, or the included game mode functionality. Instead, the key illuminates in white to show that it's active. However, you don't have any control over this active color in software. If you're someone who likes their keyboard lit up in pure white, like I do, you won't actually have any indication that caps lock or scroll lock or game mode is actually switched on. This is a bit of a problem provided you like a pure white aesthetic, which I know some people do. The majority of the keys are reprogrammable in the Swarm software when in gaming mode, and a minority of those keys have an extra layer of reprogrammability atop it with Roccat's Easy Shift system. It basically turns the caps lock key into an extra shift key, which took me an age to get working, as it wasn't abundantly clear that you needed to have it in game mode to get the Easy Shift to actually work. But it's still pretty cool nonetheless. I'm pretty certain there'll be some MMO players out there who will make a lot of use out of 2 layers of extra functionality. As for one button that you can't customize though, the mute button I mentioned earlier. Though it's kept pretty neutral in its design and so doesn't feature a clear mute icon, it can do only that. You can't map it to say your mute or deafen key in Discord, you can't tell it to be a media control off the F keys like play or pause, and if you're really salty, you can't set it to be a macro of Alt F4 so you can quit games super easily. And that's honestly a shame. It's something they could fix in software, but it depends on whether somehow that button is hard bound to mute and nothing else. And one more thing, the low profile nature of this keyboard is almost an illusion. Where the likes of the G915 from Logitech and the Cooler Master SK631 are more genuine low-profile keyboards using low-profile mechanical switches, the Vulcan TKL Pro uses standard-size switches just with low-profile caps. It's not like they were going for something genuinely thin here, but if you are looking at this thinking it would be a more chiclet-style mechanical keyboard, then you've come to the wrong place. However, it does still have a slightly lower maximum height than a usual TKL gaming keyboard, so it's not like the low-profile aesthetic is an outright fabrication. So, in conclusion, I really like the Vulcan TKL Pro. As someone who's been through a variety of mechanical keyboards over the last 5 or so years, this is one of the best feeling, most robust, and best looking keyboards I've used. Though it's not entirely perfect, and I think the Swarm software could do with a bit of work, please let me modify this mute button, that would be great. This is a really solid option for any gamer who wants a lightning fast upper hand out there on the battlefield. At a pretty significant $149.99, it's definitely not a cheap keyboard, but I do feel like you get what you pay for. And that is my review of the Roccat Vulcan TKL Pro. This is something kind of different here on WhatCulture Gaming, and I'm not going to lie, something I've wanted to do for a very long time. So if you enjoyed this and want to see more hardware reviews and stuff like that, then please let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you to Roccat for sending this bad boy over. I've had a really good time with it. Look at that. It's pretty thin. Don't forget to subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming if you haven't already. My name has been Rich. You can follow me on Twitter at PickupChangeToe. Please tell me on Twitter if you want to see more stuff like this. I'm sure we could get more stuff into review. I really like doing this, and I hope you enjoyed the B-roll. I like doing B-roll. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.